Welcome and Happy New Year, everybody. It is good to be with you. Those of you who are wearing stripes look amazing. Those of you who are not wearing stripes look amazing. And I hope you feel good in your body, because that is what's more important anyway. As we gather today, we are going to be talking about our bodies. And I invite you to use this time, this next, hour and some, to feel a little bit more at home in your body. If there are things you can do to get yourself 10% more comfortable in this space, whether you're with us on Zoom or in person, maybe that's unclenching your jaw or rolling your shoulders back. Maybe that's going to get a cup of tea, either in the foyer or from your kitchen. And do what you need to do in this time to take the best care of yourself that you can. We know that all of us have a different story about what it means to befriend our body. And so if your best way of caring for yourself is to watch the snow fall or to just take some smooth breaths, do that. And here we'll be talking about body liberation. And we all know that it is our own journey, our own work that we get to engage in together. So come let us gather. Come let us worship together. I am so glad you are here.
I'd like to welcome everyone who's here as well, especially those who are here for the first time, possibly. Welcome. People's Church is a welcoming congregation. And we welcome you in the truest and broadest sense of that word. No matter your current faith, if any, your sexual orientation, your ethnic background, you are welcome and safe here. You are also welcome and safe here, no matter what you look like, no matter your body size. Short, tall, large, small. Today's sermon is about that body size, and Reverend Rachel will be talking about befriending our bodies. And I also would like to invite you, as Reverend Rachel is talking or throughout the whole service, check in with yourself about your body. Be comfortable. Loosen your muscles, be at one with your body, and acknowledge how you feel in your body. Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? anything in between, and acknowledge that and just feel it. It's so important that we are aware of our bodies. So I invite you to do that, and welcome.
As we begin today, I have several announcements. Today is a specialty class Sunday for our elementary school aged children, which means when we sing you to classrooms, go to room 9, the Buddha room, right here, and then you will get sorted into your classrooms for your activities. After church today, we have coming of age for youth and adults. Class continues. This month we are focused on Unitarian Universalist theology, what we believe and how we believe here. So even if you have not come to any of the previous sessions, you are welcome to join us in room 19 at 12:30. Lunch and childcare are provided. Next weekend, we will be having a young adult con here in the church building. So young adults from across Michigan and beyond, and many who grew up in this church will be spending the weekend here, bonding and growing and deepening in faith and community. And on Friday night, the church is throwing them a potluck. And so we need you to show up with the food so they have something for dinner. So please bring a dish to share to the church sometime on Friday between noon and 7 p.m. Label the ingredients, and if it needs to be reheated, have instructions for that. This is one of the larger young adult gatherings in all of Unitarian Universalism, which is wild. And we can help it begin right by giving them a feast to begin their gathering. So please join me in this act of hospitality. Next Sunday, we have our rescheduled substance abuse and overdose prevention training presented by COPE Network. So this class will include being trained to administer Narcan, which is a medicine that can save the life of someone who has overdosed on opioids. It is an amazing, amazing tool. I encourage you all to attend. I attended a training like this over the summer, and it expanded my thinking in some really powerful ways. So if you want to be there, we need an in-advance RSVP for this. So please let me know in the next few days so we can be sure we have enough food for lunch and childcare. And now as we gather, I would like us to take a moment to connect between our two communities, our people on Zoom and people in person. So which way should we do this first? Okay, if you're in this room, I invite you to turn around and look at the camera in the back and smile and wave and just let everybody who is with us on Zoom know we are so glad they're here. And now, Zoomers, I invite you to turn on your camera if you haven't, and now give us a big wave so we can see you. We are so glad you're here. Look at all those friendly faces. Okay. What a gift to be together in these ways. And now we're gonna sing a little Mr. Rogers song, because Mr. Rogers teaches us to love ourselves, doesn't he? Okay.
I invite you all to rise in body or spirit to sing this song together. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, the way down deep inside you, not the things that hide you, not your torn they're just beside you. But it's you I like, every part of you. Your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you. Next line is it's you I like. It's you I like.
Would like to invite Nilo to come up and light the chalice. The chalice reading I'll be reading is one from our second and third grade congregants. Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of how we'd like to live each day, with love and truth helping lead the way. Thank you, Nilo.
In addition to our chalice lit here at People's Church, we have flames burning in Vicksburg, in Battle Creek, on Gull Road, in the Millwood neighborhood, on Gordneck Lake in Portage, Kalamazoo Township, Greenbrier neighborhood of Portage, Edmonds, Washington, Munson Lake in Grand Junction. What a gift it is to be together in time, even when we are not together in place, especially on a snowy morning like this one. Oh, and in Grand Junction. This is a community that supports one another in good times and hard times. One of the ways that we do that is we take time when we gather to share the joys and sorrows and other milestones of our lives. So if you have a joy or sorrow you want to share with us today, I invite you to come forward, put a stone in our bowl of water, speak briefly, and share your name. And if you're part of our Zoom gathering, our Zoom congregation this morning, I invite you to type your joy or sorrow into our chat box. And a few more stones for the joy and the sorrow we are holding quietly in our hearts today, the joy and sorrow in our wider community and our wider world. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed, may the weary find rest, may the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace. May the joyous be shielded. May all of us know that we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. And now it is time to sing our children and their teachers on their way.
In search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way, and may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go. Go forth in peace, in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way, and may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go.
People's people are generous people. And that shows up in so many ways, in our time, in our money, in our talent. But also people approach this community with just a generosity of spirit, right? We know that everything that happens is not for us all the time and can tolerate that. For the most part, almost always, people's people do not fight about things that don't matter, which I don't know if you've spent a lot of time in other congregations, but it's pretty common, right? There's something about the symbols and the seriousness with which we take religion that leads people to things I've heard about this week from colleagues, fight about if you sit still during the postlude, or fight about what particular words you might use in worship, or pick out one letter or one sentence or one paragraph in the book of the is the common read for the whole denomination and have a big blow up and a series of meetings about that. So just thank you for not fighting about things that don't matter, right? Because I know when people are upset here, it's deep and it's real. And that kind of conflict is really generative and really meaningful. But we don't need to fight about the paint colors, right? Or things like that. Or the church that I grew up at had a multi-year conflict about where the coffee cups go in the kitchen. The board was involved. It was a whole process. And I know we're imperfect, and I know sometimes things get us bent out of shape sometimes. But in general, we can let things go that don't really matter. And that is such a gift in community, because being together, there will always be those moments of friction and disagreement and discomfort. But to have the clarity to know if it matters or not is a gift. So thank you for showing up with that level of generosity to one another, to this community, because it allows us to do everything that we're doing instead of fighting about coffee cups. So thank you. The offering will now be received, although are there people with, okay, there are people with baskets today. Good. Thank you, team. Thank you, Finance Committee.
I'd like to invite everyone to join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us. From the countless gifts we have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone.
Prayer for bodies. There is no life without the body. There is no prayer without the body. We invite all bodies into this space, which we make sacred with our presence, with the presence of our bodies. Your body is welcome here, holy, just as it is. How does your body feel right now? How would your body like to pray? Would you like to touch the ground? Would you like to take a smooth, easy breath, to close your eyes? Would you like to lie on the floor or bow your head? Here, we respect all bodies and every body by waiting for consent. Do you consent to be in relationship with the sacred? Do you consent to engage with love? Spirit of life, we ask that you bless our bodies. We give thanks for our bodies full of joy and wonder. We thank you for the thousands of ways we can play and decorate and inhabit our glorious, one-of-a-kind bodies. We ask for the strength to be shamelessly embodied. We pray to know that love never fails, that love is unoffendable, that love fills our bodies with joy. How would you like to be with other bodies in this moment of prayer? Would you like to be touched? To hold hands? To put your hand on a shoulder or feel a hand on yours? Would you like to remain alone? Find a way now to ask for what you want and to achieve consent in this moment of prayer. Spirit of life, we ask that you bless our desire to be connected. We long to relate to other bodies with all of the love, joy, beauty, and learning possible through connection. May we be filled with gratitude for the differences among us as we learn to love with all of our senses, elated by the beauty and holiness enfleshed here among and within us. Return your attention to your body, your sacred body. Are you still aware? Are you still here with us in body and in spirit? Here there is no division, no hierarchy. You are body, blessed and beautiful. Bodies need not be still, and prayer need not be still. Do you want to pray by moving? Does your praying body want to stretch or breathe, dance or sway? How do you want to bless your body, which is itself a blessing to you? Embodied love. We wiggle and stretch, we hold ourselves still, we tense, we relax. We blink our eyes and expand our lungs, our heartbeats. We are grateful to be bodies. So often we forget the sacred site of our being. Help us remember our bodies are to be enjoyed, celebrated, and loved. There is no life, no prayer without this holy flesh. May we remember to treat our bodies with reverence. Together, we pray and worship as bodies, all people, all creation invited to this table set before us by love, by our ancestors. Here we give thanks for each of us, for all of us, for all parts of us, one-bodied, connected by covenant, which is embodied love. Amen.
Slight tonal shift. I invite you to find a comfortable position, standing, sitting, leaning, whatever, to sing this together. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing, there's a river flowing, there's a river flowing in my soul.
This is I Am Running Into a New Year by Lucille Clifton. I am running into a new year, and the old years blow back like a wind that I catch in my hair, like strong fingers, like all my old promises. And it will be hard to let go of what I said to myself about myself when I was 16 and 26 and 36, especially 36. But I am running into a new year and beg what I love and I leave to forgive me. This next poem is by a children's book author named Cynthia Ryland. God went to beauty school. He went there to learn how to give a good perm and ended up just crazy about nails. So he opened up his own shop. Nails by Jim, he called it. He was afraid to call it Nails by God. He was sure people would think he was being disrespectful and using his own name in vain, and nobody would tip. He got into nails, of course, because he'd always loved hands. Hands were some of the best things he'd ever done. And this way he could just hold one in his and admire those delicate bones just above the knuckles, delicate as birds' wings. And after he'd done that a while, he could paint all the nails any color he wanted, then say, beautiful, and mean it.
And our final reading today is a passage from the book, What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat, by Aubrey Gordon. She writes, "There is a world beyond this one. In that world, diversity and size and shape are understood to be part of the natural variance of human bodies, from very fat people to very thin ones. So too are fluctuations in weight. We do not wring our hands or punish ourselves for 1, 5, or 10 pounds change in weight. Sudden dramatic weight loss or gain is cause for concern only because of what underlying conditions they might point to, not because weight itself is stigmatized. Bathroom scales are now largely specialized. A piece of medical equipment used temporarily or infrequently for endocrine disorders or heart conditions linked to sudden and significant changes in weight. In that world, we do not draw conclusions about others' character based on the way they look. Bodies are not believed to be meritocracies, and thinness is not understood as a crowning achievement. Like hair color and height, our size is a simple and uninteresting fact about each of us in that world. It's not something over which to be fixated or troubled. Diet talk is a thing of the past, understood to be a troubling and harmful trigger for people with eating disorders and fat people alike, and an incredibly boring topic of conversation. The weight loss industry is widely written off as a scam, some perplexing sepia-toned relic of a time gone by. Healthcare is accessible, regardless of shape, size, or ability. Healthcare providers of all kinds examine fat patients with the same level of attentiveness and curiosity as thin patients. Health insurance is free and available to all of us, and insurers don't require weight loss before covering medically necessary treatments. The bullying of fat children and adults is no longer regarded as a simple fact. In schools, teachers and parents respond to bullying of fat kids by holding bullies accountable for their actions, rather than mandating that children transform their bodies in order to preserve their safety and dignity. Workplaces no longer tolerate diet talk or casual bullying of fat colleagues and subordinates. Most of us, regardless of size, pride ourselves on interrupting the harassment and discrimination targeting fat people. In that world, there is a vibrant movement for body justice that understands the pressures each of us face to maintain the sovereignty of our bodies, are uniquely informed by both our identities and the way our bodies present. This movement understands that ending police violence is an issue of body justice, particularly for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous people. It understands that accessibility and disability justice are central to body justice. It understands in many ways that anti-fatness relies on the logic of ableism, and that bias and bigotry will manipulate and utilize the logic that's available to them. So liberating any of our bodies will require liberating all of our bodies. The movement works to end compulsory genital surgeries and hormonal treatments for people born intersex, and to preserve those same treatments for people who are transgender. The movement understands that increasing access to childcare, prenatal care, adoption, and abortion are all crucial and essential body justice issues for people with uteruses. The movement knows that migration is a core human right and that sovereignty of our bodies should not and cannot collapse in the face of artificial and imagined borders. It understands, too, that justice hinges on self-determination and that there can be no body sovereignty without tribal sovereignty. The movement for body justice understands that each system of oppression needs to be understood in its own terms and as part of an interdependent web of oppressions that impact us all. In this world, movies and TV shows regularly include stories of disabled people, people of color, immigrants, trans people, intersex people, and fat people. Human experiences deserving of empathy are no longer restricted to a single size or body type. In that world, you can see me. My body is the vessel that brings me to you, yes, and it is also an important part of who I am. It informs my experience in important ways, and in that world, we all understand and respect those experiences. We see each other, tenderly hold the young shoots where our experiences grow apart, and work to build a world as gentle as our friendship.
So we're singing this. We'll do it a couple of times through. If you find harmony starting to emerge from you, embrace that. Let it out. Here we go. I am here. I am whole as I am. I am safe. I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. I'm as perfect as can be. I am here. I am whole as I am. That's it. Here we go. I am here. I am whole as I am. I am safe. I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. I'm as perfect as can be. I am here. I am whole as I am. One more time together. I am here. I am whole as I am. I am safe. I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. I'm as perfect as can be. I am here. I am whole as I am. Thank you.
As As Unitarian Universalists, one of our core values is respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person, that every person has a right to flourish with dignity and worthiness. This principle is written on our wall here in the Commons. It's inscribed in our hearts, and when we are at our best, it is made visible in our words and our actions. And you can see on the wall that there is no asterisk in this statement. No if-onlys, no buts, no exceptions, no caveats. Every person has worth and dignity just because they are, just because we are. There is nothing we did to earn it, and nothing we can do, no way we can be to lose it. So today, as the new year begins, we are bombarded with advertisements telling us that we are not worthy as we are. The ads for gym memberships and the advice about cleanses or diets or whether other weight loss schemes. So I invite us all to remember our worth, and that the worth of everyone else is not based on our size, our weight, the number on a scale or a clothing tag or a body mass index chart. Let's let that sink in. Our worth, our value is not based on our size. And I wish I could somehow transform this truth to some kind of shield or barrier or protective outerwear that we could carry with us through the world. So all of the messages that want to tell us otherwise, that want to turn our dissatisfaction with our bodies into someone else's profit, could just bounce off of us. Our worth is not based on our size. It's easy to say, and it's harder to live. My journey with all of this started more intensely when my daughter was born. I looked at her tiny body and knew that if she grew as a girl, our wider culture would teach her to hate parts of that body, to try to reshape or manage or minimize, grow or shrink or conceal parts of that body. And my heart broke, and I felt compelled to protect her and all of us from that pain. I didn't want my girl child to grow up the way I had. My story with my body is not particularly exceptional, more dissatisfaction than anything diagnosable. But there was still a lot of pain, not fitting the standards of beauty that I saw all around me. Bonding with other girls and then other women about how we hated our bodies. I wanted something different for my child and for myself. And so I started reading and listening and thinking. The order of service today comes with the bibliography, if you haven't noticed already, some of the things that have been teaching me how to forge a new way. So I listened and read and then found some friends that I can talk about this with, especially as we try to raise children that we hope will treat their bodies like dear friends and constant companions, children who will be part of the project alongside us of creating the world that Aubrey Gordon so beautifully described in the passage I read earlier. So my story is about learning to befriend my female straight-sized body. And I know that this work is different if you're in a different sort of body. It's different for men, for trans folks, for non-binary folks. I know the experience is different for people in fat bodies, for fat people. And fat folks have been my teachers in this work. Befriending our body is work for all of us, work that is made harder by the persistent messages in our culture that only a few sorts of bodies are acceptable and are worthy. So what I have come to know, and this is me getting my theological language out, is that weight is an idol in our culture. An idol is a false god. And idolatry is when we worship, give our loyalty to the wrong thing, something not worthy of that level of devotion or worship. Our culture urges us to join the false religion of diet culture. So diet culture is a system of beliefs and practices that values thinness above everything else. making thinness more important than health, but also more important than kindness, than justice, than care, than love, than any of those other values written up on our wall. And as Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same thing. We wouldn't put the same thing at the center of our value system, our theologies. But you cannot be Unitarian Universalist and put thinness at the center of your values, of your worldview, of your list of priorities. That is not our values. So this false religion of diet culture that surrounds us has its founding myths about how thinness equals health and beauty and happiness. It has its stories. Have you ever noticed that in so many stories, the villains are fat and the heroes are thin? It is hard to find a fat hero, especially one for whom their fatness is not a central part of whatever the story is, when it's not a weight loss story or some kind of story. But our villains, and I didn't even have to search this is just who came to mind, are Ursula the Sea Witch from The Little Mermaid, they're Jabba the Hutt, they're the Sheriff of Nottingham, the Penguin, all of them fat, and all of them fighting thin or opposing thin heroes. This false religion even has its own liturgical calendar. Every fall, we have the feast days, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, with their plates of food and candy. And then it's the fasting of January, the crowded gyms, and the urging to do dry January or veganuary. Summer is swimsuit season with the expectation that our bodies need to look a certain way before we can go out and enjoy the warm weather. And then the cycle repeats annually. In this false religion, food and behaviors are divided into good and bad. Communities are formed around diets and monitoring our bodies. Fat is a cruel word and not just a descriptor of one of the many ways a body can be. This idolatry turns bodies into a hierarchy, a meritocracy. Thinner is better and more moral. In the logic of diet culture, thin people are thin not because of genetics and circumstances and luck, but virtue, their own innate goodness. And the opposite is true for fat people, that because of their size, they must be bad. And all of that is lies. And it surrounds us and is supported and reinforced by the diet industry in this country, which earns $72 billion annually by keeping us dissatisfied with ourselves and spending money to chase thinness. And the reality is, in aggregate, diets don't work. There's very little that allows you to actually change your size. You're just caught in a trap of perpetually spending money based on your own dissatisfaction. So, as I talk about weight today, I'm not here to convince you of a diet plan or any particular way of being. And if you have found practices that allow you to feel comfort or at least neutrality in your own skin, that is wonderful. I don't want to change that. But I'm interested in what I think we are called to do if we are truly living by what we say we live by, is remaking the systems and creating a new culture, erasing bias, getting all of us a little freer. Focusing on our individual weights is not the point. It's how do we live in a world where all are treated with care and dignity. But what about health? This question always comes up when we're talking about weight and we're talking about size. And the truth is that weight is a terrible indicator of health. Terrible. It's possible to be fat and healthy and thin and unhealthy, and we can't measure health by looking at someone or by weighing them. Our bodies are way more complicated than that. It's true there are some negative health outcomes associated with having a higher weight, but our healthcare system is so broken that it's impossible to know if higher weights are responsible for those outcomes or if it's because of the anti-fat bias embedded in our medical system. So fat bias is pervasive, especially in medicine, but everywhere, both individual and systemic. fat people receive worse medical care than thin people, both because of the bias of healthcare providers. They do studies. As students go through medical school, they have more bias each year. And I know, and I'm sure other people know, the stories of fatter people going to the doctor with a migraine or an earache or something presenting and being told they have to lose weight, when that is totally unrelated to what the health position is, which means fatter people don't tend to go to the doctor as often because it's awful. And so then health problems get worse before they seek care. And so we just don't know, right? You would need to create a weight neutral society to actually conduct a decent study about whether higher weight leads to worse health, and that doesn't exist. And there are so many systemic issues as well. It's not just individual doctors being mean. Our medical system is not designed to give good care to fat people. Medical devices like MRI machines have weight limits, and so fatter people can't get the same tests as thinner people. The Food and Drug Administration does not require medicines to be tested on people with larger bodies, which means we just don't know how to administer medicines to people in larger bodies well. And some medicines don't work as well because of that. So for example, emergency contraception, which are pills that can stop a pregnancy after sex, isn't as effective for people who weigh more than 165 pounds, which is below the average weight for American women at this point. And in this moment, when abortion care is harder to access than ever, emergency contraception should work for everyone. And the fact that it doesn't is an outrage. So the system is broken. And the idea that thinness is better and healthier is just, it's lies all the way down. I could do this for like hours. But another thing that is so important to point out is that for older adults, having a body that's in the overweight category on the BMI, which I'll get to in a moment because the BMI is nonsense, the body mass index scale, is tied to better health outcomes than being healthy weight, which these categories don't make any sense. There haven't been good studies on why, but the people who study this think being a higher weight as we age means we have more muscle. Higher weight as we age might give us that extra padding to help us withstand falls. If you're overweight, you're less likely to break a hip when you fall. And being in that category, being a little fatter, or being fatter, gives you the caloric reserves you need to withstand an illness, right? Like if you're too sick to eat, you need to have some calories in your body already. So bodies are complicated. Weight tells us little about health. And so now to loop back on the BMI, because I learned about this and it blew my mind, because I know, at least for me, on my medical chart, that's like right at the very top what my BMI number is, and they talk about it with me a lot. That's body mass index. And it's its own like tiny idolatry within all of this, because it was invented by a mathematician to measure population level size differences. Someone with no medical training who explicitly said it should not be used on individuals. And it came into healthcare through the insurance industry that was looking for ways to discriminate to charge certain people more. So they said, oh, this is a useful number. We'll charge people with higher BMIs more for health insurance. And then somehow it then was adopted by the medical field as well. So I'm not trying to bash all of you medical providers in the room. I'm just saying there's some things that are broken. But the truest truth about health and weight and worth and dignity is that no one needs to be healthy to be worthy of care and respect, right? There are no asterisks on the statement on the wall. No exceptions. Worth and dignity are for all of us. People with chronic illnesses, people with disabilities, people with acute illnesses, people of all sizes, people who are currently temporarily healthy and able-bodied. Because health and ability are always temporary, my friends. Bodies are fragile, and life is precious and short, and none of us are getting out of here alive. That is the truth. And bodies are not meritocracies, as Aubrey Gordon writes. We don't need to discipline our bodies so we become worthy. We already are. So, I planned to preach this sermon months ago, and then this whole Wegovy and Ozempic thing happened, so I had to delve into that as well. So I don't know if you know about these, but these are newer medicines that are being prescribed for weight loss, originally developed to treat type 2 diabetes. And the news coverage of these medicines and the others in their class of medicines have proclaimed the end of obesity. And of course, it's always more complicated. There's no way we're seeing the end of obesity right now. These medicines cost over $1,000 per month and aren't covered by most insurance. Not everyone can afford them, obviously, or wants to afford them, even if they can. And the weight loss returns once people start taking them. And the longest studies of this medicine have been for only 2 years. So if we are thinking of a medicine as a lifelong weight loss medicine at $1,000 a month, and we don't know the long-term impacts, this is wild, my friends. And these medicines are in shortage, which means that diabetics, for whom these medicines help prevent serious complications and death, cannot access them because they're being snatched up by people who want them for weight loss. Often people making that choice at the urging of their own medical providers because they're told they can't get surgery or other things until they lose weight. I'm not blaming anybody for an individual choice. It is a broken system. And the conversation about these medicines is another piece of the false religion of diet culture. If we believe that human diversity of all kinds is a gift to the world, we should be troubled by any attempt to erase that diversity. As Unitarian Universalists, we would be troubled, we would be outraged if medicines were created to turn everyone female or give everyone the same skin color or hair texture, and yet this medicine, which won't be able to end obesity or make everyone the same size, is marketed as though it might, is not drawing the same sort of outrage. Diversity in body size is valuable and good, just like every other sort of difference. People of all sizes have inherent worth and dignity, just as they are. There's so much more I could say today. Of course, 5 years of learning and rewiring my own thoughts and working to befriend my body and reject the idolatry of diet culture doesn't fit in one sermon. But I do want to leave you with some optional homework if you choose to accept it. Ways for each of us to step away from this false religion and closer to our own values. There are things that I'm working on. Perhaps you will join me. I try to speak about my body with kindness. Maybe you can be like God in the poem that Matthew read and marvel at your hands and what they can do. My kids, when we're cuddling and reading a book, like to pat my belly and tell me how squashy it is. Usually as a compliment, but it was hard to take that, right? And so through trial and error, I could learn to say, it's squashy because you two stretched it out so much by growing in my uterus. And I am glad that happened. So thank you, tummy, that is squashy. It took me years to find that script, and I'm still working to actually believe it, but it helps to say it out loud, right? So how do you find ways to be grateful for the body that has gotten you this far? The body that has been with you your whole life, that has been with you through all of your achievements, all of your challenges. How can you let go, perhaps, of what you said to yourself at 16 or 26 or 36? And if you can master speaking kindly about your body, then work on thinking kindly about your body and speaking kindly and thinking kindly about other bodies. Next, don't weigh yourself anymore. None of us need to track it that closely. Hide the bathroom scale if you have to. The next time you go to the doctor, ask to skip that mandatory weigh-in at the beginning and see what happens. Be weighed only if it's medically necessary. Measure yourself in other ways. How kind were you today? How were you generous? How did you act in line with your values? Notice when the false religion of diet culture is present. Note it in your brain. Say something if you can. When diet talk comes up, change the subject to something more interesting, or at least more fulfilling. Use your power and position to shift the culture around you. Those of you who work in medical fields, use your power to shift some of the things I named already. Others, how do you shift how you talk in your family or in your friendships and in your workplaces? It's all small, right? But we can say things like, oh, let's talk about something else, or I'm trying to learn to not hate my body, so let's bond in a different way. It's real. This is how we live our values and make this better word possible. So may we reject the false religion of diet culture and live according to our values. May we know in our bones that we are worthy of respect and dignity just because we are, not because of our weight and our size, and that is true for everyone else as well. And may we work for a world that is better than this one, knowing that more love, more peace, more hope, and more joy are possible. May it be so. May we make it so. And amen. Oh.
All right, well, at this time, I'd like to invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing our final song together. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
So I laid out this whole false religion that we are all having to operate alongside, and that can feel overwhelming. But the only good thing I know about a huge, systemic, awful thing I said, there are so many ways to make it slightly better. So I invite us to go out and search for those places of more joy, more peace, more love, more hope, and to help make them so, right? That is our work. Let us go in peace and go in love.